The next 18 hours were the longest in both civilizations' history. Xena worked tirelessly at the massive displays, coordinating with Earth's space stations through Alex's communication equipment. Her calculations had to be perfect. One small error could doom both planets. Adjusting the gravitational field by 0.03 degrees, she called out, her voice hoarse from hours of constant work. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she reached up to modify the uppermost sections of the display that only she could access. Alex stood beside her, translating her instructions into terms that Earth's engineers could understand. Tell Houston to increase power output on the Western array by 15%, he said into his communicator. Chancellor Vex and the entire Etherian Council watched in amazement as their supposed genetic mistake orchestrated the most complex space operation in their history. Other cartographers tried to assist, but they were limited to the lower sections of the displays. Only Xena could see the complete picture. Storm impact in 4 hours, announced one of the technicians. Xena's hands moved faster across the holographic controls. The deflection field was forming, but it needed to be precisely aligned. She had mapped every gravitational influence within 50 light-years, calculating how each star and planet would affect the storm's path. "It's working," Alex said, watching the readings from both planets. "The field is holding," but then alarms started blaring. The stellar storm was larger than anyone had predicted, and it was pulling energy from the deflection field itself, growing stronger as it approached. "We need more power," Xena said, her voice tight with stress. "Both planets need to channel everything they have into the field generators." "That's impossible," one of the council members protested. "If we drain our power grid completely, our life support systems will fail." Xena turned to face the council, standing tall despite her exhaustion. "Then we'll have to trust each other. Earth and Zephyr are working together, sharing our resources completely. It's the only way." Chancellor Vex looked at Alex. "Can your people do this? Can they trust us with control over their power systems?" Alex didn't hesitate. "Yes. If Xena says it will work, Earth will trust her." For the next 3 hours, something unprecedented happened. The boundaries between the two civilizations dissolved. Human engineers worked alongside Etherian technicians. Earth's power flowed through Zephyrian conduits while Etherian energy supported human space stations. Xena coordinated it all, her unique perspective allowing her to see patterns that others missed. When the stellar storm finally hit the deflection field, the combined strength of both worlds held. The massive wave of cosmic energy was redirected around the two planets, harmlessly dispersing into empty space. As the crisis passed and normal power was restored, a profound silence fell over the navigation guild. Everyone stared at Xena, who was slumped against the display, exhausted but victorious. Chancellor Vex was the first to speak. "You saved us all." "We saved each other," Xena replied quietly. "That's what happens when people work together instead of pushing each other away." In the days that followed, everything changed. The successful cooperation between Earth and Zephyr during the crisis had created a bond that went far deeper than formal diplomacy. But more importantly, the Etherian people had seen their supposed genetic mistake become their greatest hero. Young Etherians began questioning the old restrictions. If someone like Xena could save their entire civilization, maybe being different wasn't something to fear. Support groups formed for other Etherians who had been rejected by the genetic councils. The rigid system that had controlled their society for 2,000 years began to crack. Alex's superiors on Earth were no longer angry about his defiance of orders. The successful mission and the new alliance with Zephyr more than made up for his diplomatic improvisation, but they were surprised when he submitted his resignation. "I'm not abandoning Earth," he explained to Director Chen during their final communication. "I'm building a bridge between our worlds." Xena made her own difficult decision. Standing in the apartment where she had lived in isolation for so many years, she looked around at the furniture she had modified, the walls that had sheltered her loneliness, the window through which she had gazed at stars she would never visit. "I've spent my whole life mapping distant worlds," she told Alex as they packed her few belongings. "Maybe it's time I actually saw one." The journey to Earth took several weeks, but for Xena, every moment was a revelation. She had never been off Zephyria before, and seeing her home planet grow smaller in the ship's viewing port was both terrifying and liberating. When they arrived on Earth, Xena experienced something she had never known: acceptance. Her height, which had made her a freak on Zephyria, was simply one variation among billions on Earth. Humans came in every possible combination of height, skin color, hair texture, and body type. No one stared at her. No one whispered about genetic mistakes. Alex took her to meet his colleagues at the International Space Research Center, where her knowledge of stellar cartography was received with excitement and respect. Within months, she was leading the newly created Department of Interstellar Navigation, combining Etherian techniques with human technology to create breakthrough discoveries. Their first major project was establishing permanent communication networks between Earth and Xena's mapping skills allowed them to find the most efficient routes through space, while Alex's diplomatic experience helped coordinate the technical cooperation between both worlds. But the real breakthrough came 2 years later, when their daughter was born. Little Nova was a perfect blend of both species, standing taller than most humans, but shorter than most Etherians. Her eyes were the violet of her mother's people, but her hair was the dark brown of her father's. She had inherited Xena's spatial intelligence and Alex's ability to connect with people from different backgrounds. "She's beautiful," Alex whispered, holding his daughter for the first time. "She's perfect," Xena agreed, tears of joy streaming down her face, "and she'll never have to hide who she is." Nova grew up in a world where diversity was celebrated, where her mixed heritage was seen as a gift rather than a problem. She spoke both human languages and Etherian, and learned to navigate both Earth's chaotic streets and Zephyria's crystal spires, and showed an early aptitude for the kind of bridge building her parents had pioneered. By her 5th birthday, Nova was already helping translate between visiting Etherian children and human classmates. The cultural exchange programs that Alex and Xena had established were bringing young people from both worlds together, creating friendships that would last lifetimes. The changes on Zephyria were slower but steady. The genetic restrictions were gradually relaxed, and Etherians who had been outcasts for their differences began finding acceptance. Some even applied to study on Earth, where they could experience a society that valued individuality. One evening, as they watched Nova play in their garden with children from both worlds, Xena received a message that made her smile. It was from a young Etherian woman who had been deemed too short for reproduction, asking if she could come to Earth to study at Xena's institute. "Look at that," Alex said, reading over her shoulder. "Another bridge being built." Xena leaned against him, watching their daughter chase butterflies with her friends. "I used to think being different was a curse," she said softly. "Now I know it was a gift. It just took me a while to find the right place to unwrap it." As the twin suns of Zephyria set behind Earth's mountains, 3 generations of change played out in one small garden: the outcast who became a hero, the diplomat who chose love over duty, and the child who would never have to choose between being herself and being accepted. 3 months had passed since Alex brought the alien to Earth. The medical facility in Colorado was one of the most advanced in the world, surrounded by mountains and far from curious eyes. The alien, who they now called Zara based on the sounds she made when trying to say her real name, had recovered physically, but something else was happening that worried everyone. That Alex couldn't leave her side for more than a few hours without Zara becoming seriously ill. Her glowing skin patterns would fade to almost nothing, her body temperature would drop, and she would stop eating. The first time it happened, the medical team thought she might die, but the moment Alex returned to her room, she would recover completely. Dr. Kim Rodriguez was the facility's top psychiatrist, specializing in trauma cases. She had worked with soldiers, accident survivors, and people who had experienced terrible losses, but Zara was unlike any patient she had ever encountered. "This isn't just emotional attachment," Dr. Rodriguez explained to Alex during one of their many meetings. "Her vital signs show real physical changes when you're away. Her heart rate drops, her brain activity decreases, and her immune system becomes weaker. It's as if her body has become dependent on your presence to function properly." Alex sat in the conference room looking tired and confused. He hadn't slept well in weeks. Every time he tried to go home to his apartment, his phone would ring, with reports that Zara was getting worse. He had basically moved into the facility, sleeping on a cot in the break room. "But why me?" Alex asked. "Lisa and Jake were there too when we found her. They helped save her life." Dr. Rodriguez pulled up brain scans on her computer. "Look at these readings from when she's with you versus when she's with other people. When you're in the room, her brain shows patterns we've never seen before. It's like she's sharing your emotional state. When you're calm, she's calm. When you're stressed, she becomes agitated." The scans showed incredible activity in parts of Zara's brain that humans didn't even use. It was as if she had evolved abilities that allowed her to connect with other minds in ways that seemed impossible. "We think her species developed this as a survival mechanism," Dr. Rodriguez continued. "Imagine living on a dangerous planet where being alone meant death. If your people could form instant, deep bonds with each other, you'd be much more likely to survive. The problem is, she's formed this bond with you, and you're not equipped to handle it. Alex rubbed his temples, feeling a headache coming on. So what do we do? I can't stay here forever, but I can't abandon her either. The answer came during one of Dr. Rodriguez's therapy sessions with Zara. They had been working on basic communication, teaching Zara English while learning about her empathic abilities. Zara's English was getting better every day, though she still struggled with complex ideas. Alex. Friend, Zara said during the session, her skin patterns pulsing gently. Alex. Safe. Home gone. Family gone. Alex. Stay. Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward. Zara, what happened to your home? Can you tell me about your family? The patterns on Zara's skin dimmed as sadness washed over her. Through the empathic connection she shared with Alex, he could feel her pain like a physical weight in his chest. Even though he wasn't in the room, the bond between them carried her emotions across the building. Home. Burning, Zara whispered. Sky red, water gone, everyone. Running. Ship, take me, only me, everyone else. She made a gesture that clearly meant death. Dr. Rodriguez felt her heart break for this young being who had lost everything. How many of your people were on your planet? Many, like stars in sky. Now, only me. Zara touched her chest where her heart would be. Feel empty, feel broken. But Alex. Her skin brightened again. Alex, make empty feeling go away. That's when Dr. Rodriguez understood. Zara wasn't just attached to Alex because he saved her. She was using their empathic bond to fill the enormous emotional void left by losing her entire civilization. Alex's presence was literally keeping her from falling into complete despair. But this revelation brought new problems. Alex was starting to change too. The constant empathic connection was affecting his own emotions and behavior. He had become more sensitive to other people's feelings, sometimes overwhelmed by crowds or loud environments. He was also developing an almost protective instinct toward Zara that worried his friends and colleagues. You need to take breaks, Dr. Rodriguez told him firmly. This bond you to share is affecting your mental health too. You're losing yourself in her needs. Alex knew she was right, but every time he tried to leave, the guilt was overwhelming. Through their connection, he could feel Zara's panic and fear. It was like abandoning a drowning person who was reaching out for help. The breakthrough came during a particularly difficult night. Alex had tried to go home for just one evening, but Zara's distress had brought him rushing back to the facility. He found her curled up in the corner of her room, her skin barely glowing, tears streaming down her face. But this time, instead of immediately comforting her, Alex sat down across the room and spoke gently. Zara, I need you to listen to me. I care about you, and I want to help you, but this isn't healthy for either of us. You're stronger than you think you are. Through their empathic bond, he tried to send her feelings of confidence and strength, instead of just comfort. To his surprise, Zara's patterns brightened slightly. You feel ... I am strong, she asked in her improving English. Yes, you survived the destruction of your entire world. You traveled across space alone. You learned a new language and adapted to a completely different planet. That takes incredible strength. For the first time since they had met, Alex felt something different through their connection. Instead of need and dependency, he felt a flicker of pride and self-awareness from Zara. It was a small step, but it was progress. Dr. Rodriguez had been working on a theory that might help both of them, but it would require taking a huge risk. She believed that somewhere in the galaxy, there might be other survivors from Zara's world. If they could find them, it might be possible to help Zara form the natural bonds her species needed while allowing Alex to regain his independence. The idea excited Zara in ways they hadn't seen before. Her skin patterns danced with colors they had never witnessed, and through their bond Alex felt hope for the first time in months. But finding other survivors would mean leaving Earth and venturing into deep space. It would be dangerous, expensive, and there was no guarantee they would find anyone. Worse, if they were wrong, the journey itself might break the fragile progress Zara had made. As Alex looked at Zara that night, seeing the first real hope in her eyes since they had met, he realized that sometimes the biggest risks were worth taking. Tomorrow he would start making the calls that would change both their lives forever. 6 months later, Alex found himself standing on the bridge of the research vessel New Horizon, watching stars streak past the windows as they traveled through hyperspace. The ship was one of the most advanced exploration vessels humanity had ever built, equipped with everything they needed for a long journey into unknown space. The decision to search for other survivors of Zara's species hadn't been easy. It took months of convincing government officials, scientists, and funding committees that the mission was worthwhile. But Zara's unique abilities had proven invaluable during the preparation phase. Her empathic connection allowed her to sense things that human instruments couldn't detect. Zara called from her station near the communications array. Her English had improved dramatically during their months of preparation. "I feel something very faint, but familiar." Captain Torres, a veteran space explorer with over 20 years of experience, looked up from his chart. "What kind of feeling, Zara?" Zara's skin patterns shifted to deep blue, indicating concentration, like hearing echo of home song. "Very far away, but real." The crew had learned to trust Zara's empathic abilities. Over the past few months, she had helped them locate 3 abandoned ships that their scanners had missed completely. Her connection to her own species seemed to work across vast distances, like an internal compass pointing toward others like her. Dr. Rodriguez, who had joined the mission to continue Zara's therapy, monitored her patient's progress carefully. The journey had been good for Zara in many ways. Being surrounded by new people had forced her to form relationships beyond her bond with Alex. She had become friends with Maya, the ship's engineer, and spent hours learning about human technology from Commander Jackson, their security chief. "She's growing more independent," Dr. Rodriguez reported to Alex during one of their weekly checks. "The dependency symptoms are still there, but they're less severe. Having a mission and purpose seems to help her cope with the separation anxiety." Alex nodded, though he felt mixed emotions about Zara's growing independence. Part of him was relieved that she was becoming stronger, but another part missed the intense connection they used to share. The empathic bond was still there, but it felt different now, less desperate and more like a gentle friendship. Their first major lead came from a trading station orbiting a gas giant in the Vega system. The station was a melting pot of different alien species, all conducting business in the neutral zone between human and alien territories. Alex had never seen so many different forms of life in one place. Zara was fascinated by the diversity, but also overwhelmed. Her empathic abilities picked up emotions from dozens of different species, creating a chaotic mix of feelings that made her dizzy. She had to wear a special headband that Dr. Rodriguez had designed to help filter out some of the mental noise. At the trading station, they met Captain Roth, a grizzled trader who claimed to have encountered Zara's species before. He was a large man with cybernetic implants covering half his face, and his ship looked like it had been through several wars. "Yeah, I seen 'em," Roth said, spitting into a cup. "Glowing blue folks, right, real quiet types, kept to themselves, mostly, but that was before their world got cooked." "Did any of them survive?" Alex asked urgently. Roth scratched his mechanical jaw. "Well, there were rumors. Some folks said they saw escape pods heading toward the mining colonies in the Kepler sector, but that's rough territory. Pirates, asteroid fields, radiation storms. Not many ships make it through there intact." Despite the dangers, they decided to investigate. The Kepler sector was a 3-week journey through some of the most dangerous space in the galaxy. The area was filled with unstable stars, rogue asteroids, and criminal organizations that preyed on passing ships. As they traveled deeper into the sector, Zara's empathic abilities became more active. She would sometimes wake up in the middle of the night, claiming she felt other minds calling out in distress. Dr. Rodriguez worried that the stress of the search was affecting her mental health, but Zara insisted they were getting closer. "They're hurt," she would say, pressing her hands to her temples, "scared, hiding, but alive." The breakthrough came when they reached the Titan mining colony, a rough settlement built into a massive asteroid. The colony was home to criminals, outcasts, and people who preferred to live far from civilized space. The governor, a woman named Captain Vale, was suspicious of their motives at first. "You're looking for the blue ones?" she asked, studying Zara with interest. "Yeah, we got some of those. Found them half dead in an escape pod about a year ago. They're in the medical wing, but they don't talk much. Seem pretty traumatized." Alex felt his heart race with excitement, but Zara's reaction was more complex. Through their empathic bond, he could feel her anxiety mixing with hope. She was afraid of what they might find. The medical wing of the colony was basic but clean. In a small room at the end of the corridor, they found 3 members of Zara's species. 2 were unconscious in medical beds, their skin patterns barely visible. The third was awake but staring blankly at the ceiling. "They've been like this for months," the colony's doctor explained. "We've kept them alive, but they don't respond too much. It's like they've given up." Zara approached the conscious one slowly, As she got closer, her skin patterns began to glow brighter, and the other alien's eyes focused on her for the first time. When their eyes met, both of them gasped, and the room filled with a soft humming sound that seemed to come from their skin. Brother Zara whispered in her own language, then repeated in English for the others to understand. The other alien sat up slowly, his own patterns beginning to pulse with weak light. He spoke in their native tongue, a musical language that sounded like wind chimes and flowing water. Alex couldn't understand the words, but through his bond with Zara he could feel the emotions, relief, joy, but also deep sadness and anger. His name is Kale, Zara translated. He says the others are his sister and cousin. They escaped together when the world ended. Her voice broke slightly. He wants to know why I smell like humans. Alex realized that this was going to be more complicated than they had hoped. Kale's expression had hardened when he looked at the human crew members. Through Zara, Alex could sense suspicion and even hostility. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward carefully. Can you ask him if he needs medical attention? We want to help, Zara translated, but Kale's response was sharp and angry. His skin patterns flared red, a color they had never seen from Zara. He says humans knew about the dying sun, says human ships were in the system, watching, but they didn't help. He thinks you let his people die on purpose. The accusation hit Alex like a physical blow. He had never heard about human presence in Zara's home system, but if it was true, it would explain Kale's anger. The weight of survivors' guilt and anger toward an entire species was something none of them had prepared for. As Kale continued speaking, his words became more heated. The other two aliens began to stir, responding to his emotional state. Soon, all three of them were awake and staring at the human crew with expressions ranging from fear to outright hatred. This is going to be harder than we thought, Dr. Rodriguez whispered to Alex. They're traumatized, angry, and they see us as part of the problem, not the solution. But Zara stepped between her people and the humans, her skin patterns shifting to colors that seemed to have calming effects on the others. She spoke quickly in her native language, gesturing toward Alex and the crew. I told them, you saved me, she explained. I told them about our bond, about how you helped me heal. Kale doesn't believe me yet, but he's willing to listen. As the day wore on, it became clear that bringing these survivors together would be both a blessing and a challenge. They were no longer alone in the universe, but they were far from being a happy family. The real work of healing was just beginning, and Alex wondered if their empathic bonds would be strong enough to overcome the pain and anger that threatened to tear them apart before they could truly be together again. 2 months after finding the other survivors, Alex watched through the window of the rehabilitation center on Mars as Zara tried to comfort her cousin. Nearer, the Mars colony had become their temporary home, a place where the 4 surviving members of Zara's species could heal together. While staying close to human medical care, the center was built into a dome that protected them from the harsh Martian environment. Inside, they had created spaces that reminded the aliens of their lost home world. Soft blue lighting, flowing water features, and plants that responded to touch helped them feel more comfortable, but comfort was hard to find. Kale, the most vocal of the 3 rescued survivors, spent most of his time in angry silence. His sister Lyra hadn't spoken a word since they found her, and Nira cried constantly, her skin patterns flickering between deep purple and black. This is much harder than I expected, Dr. Rodriguez admitted to Alex as they observed the group therapy session. Zara has adapted to human contact because she bonded with you immediately after her trauma. But the others spent a year alone, festering in their pain and anger. Through the glass, they could see Zara sitting in a circle with her people, trying to lead them in what looked like a meditation exercise. Her skin glowed with gentle, calming colors, but the others remained dim and unresponsive. Kale still blames humans for everything, Alex said, feeling frustrated. Yesterday he told Zara that her bond with me was a betrayal of their species. Dr. Rodriguez nodded. He's using anger to avoid dealing with his grief. It's easier to be mad at humans than to accept that his entire civilization is gone. But anger like that can be dangerous, especially when it comes from someone with empathic abilities. They had learned that when Kale became extremely angry, his emotions affected not just the other aliens but also sensitive humans nearby. Several staff members had reported sudden feelings of rage or despair when working near him. It was becoming a serious problem. The breakthrough came during an unexpected moment. Alex was walking past the therapy room when he heard shouting. Through the window, he saw Kale standing over Zara, his skin blazing with red patterns while she cowered on the floor. The other 2 survivors were huddled in the corner. Overwhelmed by the emotional storm. Without thinking, Alex burst through the door. Get away from her. Kale spun around, his dark eyes filled with fury. Human, you poisoned her mind with your weakness. She'll forget who she is because of you. I helped her survive, Alex shot back. Where were you when she was dying alone in that crashed ship? I was trying to save my family. Kale's voice cracked with pain. While you humans watched our world burn, I was putting my sister and cousin in escape pods, hoping someone would find them, but no one came. No one cared. The raw emotion in Kale's voice hit Alex like a physical blow. Through his connection with Zara, he could feel the depth of Kale's pain and guilt. This wasn't just anger at humans. This was the agony of someone who felt responsible for failing to save his people. You're right, Alex said quietly, his anger deflating. We should have done more. We should have tried to help. Kale's red patterns flickered with surprise. He had expected Alex to fight back, not to agree with him. But taking your anger out on Zara won't bring your world back, Alex continued. She's been through the same loss you have. She's not your enemy. For the first time since they had found him, Kale's skin patterns shifted away from red. Deep blue waves of sadness washed across his arms and face as he looked at Zara, who was still sitting on the floor. I miss home, he whispered in English, his voice breaking. I miss the songs in the wind, the warm oceans, the way the moons danced in the sky. I miss my parents, my friends, everyone I couldn't save. Zara slowly stood up and approached her angry cousin. When she was close enough, she gently took his hands. Both of their skin patterns began to pulse and sync, and the room filled with the soft humming sound that happened when their species connected emotionally. Alex couldn't understand their native language, but he could feel the exchange of emotions. Through his bond with Zara, she was sharing her own grief, her own guilt, and her own journey toward healing. She showed Kale how the bond with Alex hadn't replaced her connection to her people, but had given her the strength to keep going. Slowly, Lyra and Neera joined them. The 4 survivors formed a circle, their hands touching, their skin patterns synchronizing into a beautiful light show of shared emotion. For the first time since the rescue, they were truly connecting as a family. Dr. Rodriguez, who had been watching from the doorway, wiped tears from her eyes. This is what they needed. Not just individual therapy, but the chance to grieve together. Over the following weeks, the group sessions became more productive. Kale's anger didn't disappear overnight, but it transformed into something more constructive. He began working with the human engineers, sharing knowledge about his species' technology. His sister Lyra started speaking again, first in whispers, then in full sentences. Neera's constant crying stopped, replaced by curious questions about human culture. But the biggest change was in Zara being with her own people again, had awakened parts of her personality that had been sleeping since the destruction of her world. She laughed more, her skin patterns showed colors Alex had never seen before, and she began teaching the human staff about her species' customs and beliefs. She's becoming whole again, Dr. Rodriguez observed during one of their meetings. The bond with you saved her life, but connecting with her own people is healing her soul. Alex felt a mix of pride and sadness watching Zara's transformation. He was happy to see her growing stronger, but he also felt like he was losing something precious. Their empathic connection was still there, but it felt different now, less desperate and more like a gentle friendship. The real test came when they had to decide what to do next. The Mars colony was only meant to be temporary. The survivors needed to choose between trying to integrate into human society or finding a way to rebuild their species somewhere else. During one of their planning sessions, something incredible happened. The 4 survivors joined hands and extended their empathic abilities outward, reaching far beyond Mars. Their combined power was much stronger than any of them could achieve alone. There are others, Zara said suddenly, her eyes wide with excitement, far away but alive. Many others. Kale's skin patterns flashed with colors Alex had never seen before. A colony ship. It escaped before the final destruction. They're looking for us too. The discovery changed everything. The survivors weren't the last of their kind after all. Somewhere in the galaxy, hundreds of their people were alive and searching for other survivors. The empathic beacon they had created together had reached across the void and made contact. But this revelation also created a new dilemma. If there was a chance to rejoin their species and rebuild their civilization, would Zara choose to leave Earth behind? Would she leave Alex and the bond that had saved her life? As Alex looked at Zara's glowing, hopeful face, he realized that the hardest part of loving someone was knowing when to let them go. The real test of their bond wouldn't be whether it could survive separation, but whether it was strong enough to support whatever choice she needed to make for her own happiness. Answers would come soon enough. The colony ship had received their signal and was already changing course toward Mars. In just a few weeks, Zara would have to choose between the life she had built with humans and the chance to be with her own people again. For Alex, all he could do was support her decision, even if it meant saying goodbye to the most important relationship he had ever known. The massive colony ship appeared in Mars orbit like a dream made real. Alex stood on the observation deck of the rehabilitation center, watching the enormous vessel slowly rotate as it positioned itself for docking. The ship was 3 times larger than anything humanity had ever built, its surface covered in the same flowing, organic patterns that decorated Zara's skin. "It's beautiful," Zara whispered beside him, her skin glowing brighter than he had ever seen it. Through their empathic bond, Alex could feel her overwhelming joy mixed with nervous anticipation. After months of believing she was one of only 4 survivors, she was about to reunite with hundreds of her people. The first shuttle from the colony ship arrived 6 hours later. Alex watched from a distance as Zara and the other survivors walked across the landing pad to meet their rescuers. The moment the shuttle doors opened, a wave of harmonic sound filled the air as dozens of voices sang in the musical language of Zara's people. An elderly alien emerged first, her silver hair flowing like water and her skin patterns more complex than any Alex had seen before. Behind her came others, all showing the same excited, colorful displays that indicated deep emotion. When they saw Zara and the survivors, the entire group began glowing so brightly that the humans had to shield their eyes. "The reunion is more intense than we expected," Dr. Rodriguez said, monitoring the readings on her instruments. "The empathic energy they're generating is off the charts." For 3 days, Alex barely saw Zara. She was completely absorbed in reconnecting with her people, learning about their journey through space, and sharing her own experiences of survival and recovery. When she finally came to find him, she looked different, more confident, more complete, but also somehow distant. "Alex," she said, sitting down beside him in the quiet garden area of the center, "I need to tell you something important." His heart sank. Through their bond, he could already sense what was coming. "You're leaving with them." Zara's skin patterns shifted to soft blue. The color he had learned meant deep thought. "It's not that simple. Elder Yana, the leader of our colony ship, has made an incredible offer. They want to establish a permanent settlement here, near Mars, a place where both our species can live and work together." Alex felt surprise replace his sadness. "They want to stay. During the years they've traveled through space, they've met many different species. They've learned that survival isn't just about preserving our own kind, but about building connections with others. When I told them about our bond, about how humans saved my life and helped me heal, they became very interested." Zara reached out and took his hand. The moment their skin touched, Alex felt her emotions more clearly than he had in months. She wasn't just grateful to him, she genuinely cared about him and wanted him to be part of whatever came next. "But there's a problem," she continued. "Kale and some of the others from the colony ship don't trust humans. They think forming bonds with your species makes us weak, that it will eventually destroy what makes us who we are." Over the following days, Alex found himself at the center of a debate that would determine the future of both species. Elder had proposed creating a joint research facility where humans and Zara's people could study together, sharing knowledge and building understanding. But a faction led by Kale's cousin from the colony ship, a stern warrior named Commander Talon, opposed any cooperation with humans. "They are children playing with forces they don't understand," Commander Talon argued during one of the public debates. "Their technology is crude, their empathic abilities non-existent. What can we possibly learn from them?" Alex was invited to speak at the gathering, representing humanity's perspective. Standing before hundreds of glowing beings whose emotions he could feel pressing against his mind was one of the most intimidating experiences of his life. "You're right that we're different," he began, his voice echoing in the large chamber they had constructed for the meeting. "We can't share emotions the way you do. We can't feel each other's pain and joy as if it were our own, but maybe that's exactly why we need each other." He looked around the room, seeing patterns of skepticism flickering across many faces. "When Zara was dying in that crashed ship, my inability to feel her pain didn't make me weaker. It allowed me to stay calm and focused while saving her life. When she was trapped in her grief and trauma, my different perspective helped her see a way forward." Zara stood up from the audience. "Alex speaks truth. Our bond didn't make me less than I was before, it made me more. I learned to see the universe through different eyes, to understand that strength comes in many forms." The debate continued for hours, with members of both species sharing their fears and hopes for the future. Some humans worried about the aliens' empathic abilities overwhelming their own emotions. Some aliens feared that close contact with humans would dilute their own cultural identity. But gradually, a new idea began to emerge. Instead of trying to blend the two species together or keep them completely separate, what if they created something entirely new? A community where both humans and aliens could contribute their unique strengths while maintaining their own identities. Dr. Rodriguez was the first to formally propose the concept. We could establish a research station orbiting Mars, with separate living areas for each species but shared workspaces and common areas. Those who want to form close bonds across species could do so, while others could maintain their preferred level of distance. Elder Yana's skin patterns shifted to warm gold, indicating approval. This could work. We have much to learn about healing trauma and building healthy relationships. Humans have shown remarkable adaptability and problem-solving skills. Together, we might discover things neither species could achieve alone. The vote was close, but the proposal passed. Construction would begin immediately on the first joint human-alien research facility in history. Zara would serve as the chief liaison between species, using her unique experience to help others navigate the challenges of cross-cultural cooperation. As the colony ship prepared to move to its new permanent orbit, Alex found himself facing his own difficult choice. He had been offered the position of human director for the facility, but it would mean leaving Earth permanently and dedicating his life to this unprecedented experiment in interspecies cooperation. You don't have to decide right away, Zara told him as they walked through the gardens one last time before the facility's construction began, but I hope you'll consider it. Our bond saved my life, but I think it could do something even more important now. It could help save both our peoples from the loneliness of being alone in the universe. Alex looked up at the stars visible through the dome's transparent ceiling. Somewhere out there were countless other species, each struggling with their own challenges and searching for their place in the cosmos. The facility they were planning wouldn't just be a research station. It would be proof that different forms of life could not only coexist but actually make each other stronger. I've already decided, he said, squeezing Zara's hand gently. I want to be part of this, not because of our bond, but because I believe in what we're trying to build. 3 months later, Alex stood on the bridge of the new facility, watching both human and alien children playing together in the zero-gravity recreation areas. They had developed their own games, their own ways of communicating, their own friendships that transcended the differences between their species. Zara joined him at the observation window, her skin patterns now a constant, gentle glow that indicated deep contentment. Look at them, she said, pointing to a group of children who were teaching each other their respective languages. They don't see aliens and humans, they just see friends. The facility had become more successful than anyone had dared to hope. The research being conducted there was revolutionizing both species' understanding of consciousness, emotion, and the nature of intelligence itself. More importantly, it had become a symbol of hope for peaceful cooperation throughout the galaxy. Empathic abilities had continued to develop through his ongoing bond with Zara, though he would never be as naturally gifted as her people. In return, several of the aliens had learned to appreciate human logic and analytical thinking. They were all becoming something new, something that honored both their origins and their shared future. Do you ever regret it? Alex asked, watching a human engineer and an alien scientist work together on a new project. Choosing to stay and build this instead of just going back to your people's traditional ways. Zara's patterns shifted to the warm colors that indicated happiness and certainty. Never. Our bond taught me that love isn't about holding on to someone or something. It's about helping each other become the best versions of ourselves. This facility, this community we're building, it's the best version of what both our species can be. As they stood together watching the future unfold before them, Alex realized that their story had never really been about an alien's addiction to human companionship. It had been about learning that the strongest bonds aren't formed by need or desperation, but by choice, growth, and the courage to build something better together than either could achieve alone.